Hello, and thank you for joining us for our CoSIDA Professional Development and Education Committee programming. As today we'll talk to three other athletic communications professionals about their experiences in something that a lot of us in the industry have dealt with over the last year, and that is changes in staffing, furloughs, layoffs, and how that has impacted our profession and impacted many of the people within our profession. We are joined today by Brian Morales, Director of Media Relations at Wagner College, Katie Mucci, Assistant Commissioner for New Media and Technology at the Missouri Valley Conference, and Nate Smith, Director of Athletic Communications at Alfred University. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am Miles McQuiggan, Director of Athletic Communications at St. Francis University of Pennsylvania. I want to jump right into this, talk about how a really sensitive and serious topic has affected so many of us in the profession. And starting with you, Nate, just talking about being furloughed and being out of the office and then not having that opportunity to really set yourself up for the start of the year.
Yeah, I'll actually start my journey in October 2019. So I came to Alfred University from Skidmore College. I'm a first-time director in this role, and hadn't really had the chance to kind of finish out a year. I got hired in October 2019. The pandemic comes in earnest in March 2020, and then I get furloughed in about April, a month and a half later in April. So it's been kind of a slog. I used that furlough time to kind of, never really had an opportunity to kind of relax during the summer or in the early fall area time. So I just kind of relaxed and did a lot of walks and all that stuff. But when August hit, I was ready to come back, and I was short-staffed for that first semester since we weren't having any contests during the fall. So it was just myself, and I was training a GA on just kind of getting used to everything and learning kind of the ins and outs of our profession. So when January came and I got my full-time assistants back, got my ability to hire my student workers back, then came a cavalcade of games. We're playing all of our seasons in one about 8-week span. So it's been quite a ride, to say the least, but just taking things week by week. And it's interesting just kind of learning what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, kind of learning that real fast in this time period. Just finished, so I'm a little bit underdressed, just finished a softball doubleheader where I had to do PA and stats. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's been quite a ride, and just not really having that time to kind of get ready and get everything settled before a quick season started.
I think that's something that a lot of us have talked about, whether in our current roles or preparing for this or talking with other people in our conferences and colleagues, of just really how important that preparation time is. And really, our job doesn't start 2 hours before game time. It doesn't start on Labor Day weekend, and kind of just the importance that we need going forward as a profession to convey. This is a job that requires us to have the opportunity to prepare ourselves for success and prepare our student athletes and coaches for success year round.
Absolutely. And I don't want to make it seem like, I'm thankful for the opportunities I've had. Like, being a director, jobs do not grow on trees. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, and, just trying to make the most of this, kind of year and a half span. But it has been a difficult role, just trying to learn about myself as a leader at the same time as trying to deal with the ins and outs of dealing with, living in a pandemic. So it has been an interesting journey for me, but, I'm just making the most of it. Again, taking it day by day, week by week, learning, kind of a lot of things about myself in the process.
And yeah, just to go off that, obviously in my situation where I jumped in mid-pandemic to lead an office, and it's definitely, I joke with Brian, I joke with Katie and a couple other friends, it's definitely not the year you would choose to learn the ins and outs of running an office, but it is an incredible opportunity when you do get to that point. And I think you hit the nail on the head with making the most of it. So, Brian Morales from Wagner College. And Brian, you're someone, you've been at Wagner. I believe this is year 7 now as the head of that, I was in that office at Wagner College on Staten Island, and you've been the director there for a few years now. Kind of in your situation, just walk me through kind of the last year and how that's played out for you.
Well, the last year has been like Nate said, it was time to, I got furloughed in May, May 16th. It was right after our baseball season has officially been canceled. So I was doing a couple of little things, and then I knew that the clock was kind of running out. So it was almost like I had a internal clock saying, okay, what are you gonna do when it's Monday, May 18th? So, I guess it took a little bit of a toll with me because I'm always been the type of person to work hard and just day in, day out grind. So to take a time off for any reason, personal, family, didn't matter. It really didn't sit well with me. So basically May 18th came and I was a little bit upset. I talked to my friends, talked to my family, and I said, what do I do? How do I get through this? And they said, listen, whatever you do, however long you're going to be furloughed, you can come to us, you can talk to us, we support you. But I said, yeah, but this doesn't sit right with me. It's May 18th. I have media guides that I need to do. Yeah, the baseball season just ended. Let me recap for soccer. Football's coming up in August, but the way that the world worked, we didn't know what that was going to look like. So the 2 weeks, it took me about 2 weeks to kind of adjust to that. And I said, you know what, you got to make a decision for yourself. You need to see what else is out there. And like Nate said, that was kind of a time where I really sat down and I said, what's the next step for me? So I decided that, I was going to help around the house more. Learned how to cook a little bit. Not, took care of some personal health stuff. But the one that I really was proud of during this time that I got to do was to go back to school because it was something that I always had on the back burner. I have my master's degree and I said, you know what? If I ever get the chance to go back and try to do something for me, maybe it's not in communications, it's in something totally different, but maybe not outside the realm. So what I did, I researched, basically felt like a grad student all over again. And I applied for a graduate certificate program, which I'm in my third semester right now at Drexel University in NCAA compliance. So I guess, this time, I took to self-evaluate for me. And I said, you know what, just start looking at what you're going to do when the pandemic ends and where you see yourself down the line.
Brian, I think you make a good point on kind of finding these moments to improve your health, whether it be your physical, your emotional, your mental health, your career health. And to be honest, Brian, we talked about it when you went back to school, and I looked at going back to school, and you were someone who was a huge inspiration in that for me. And I think finding, as weird as it sounds, finding some of those silver linings in what we've all faced the last year has allowed us to all kind of improve in our own lives and also help improve our employers. And that's where I kind of want to go to Katie on this about the topic of, finding ways to make sure we're advocating for ourselves and making sure we're taking care of ourselves. This has been a year that has been not just in COVID and not just in college athletics, a trying year throughout our country and our world. And I think we're an industry of people sometimes that tends to put ourselves on the back burner and find, okay, but I got to take care of this recap. I got to take care of this graphic. And we sometimes collectively as an industry forget about ourselves a little bit. And I think Katie, as we were preparing for this and talking about this, brought up some good points about ways we can advocate to our employers. And Katie, I want to bring you in to talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, I think the one thing that gets lost a lot is we all talk about how stressed we are and how busy our jobs are, but we're literally living through a 100-year pandemic. It's not just a normal year where we're all stressed, because we always are, but we are living through a time when there are over 500,000 people who've lost their lives. And I think you forget that sometimes because you're so busy with this work, and it's like, that's a huge added emotional object in your life that you're trying to do, and then also work constantly. And so I think that's one of the things that a lot of people in our office, we really had sort of a come to Jesus moment at one of our tournaments recently, where we all said, we can't do what we're doing anymore. You know, we have people in our office who are talking about their marriages are suffering right now. Their kids are upset with them because of how much they're working or how much they're devoting their time to work and not their own life. And I think we realized that's not good, because as a lot of us like to say, like, if something were to happen to you, or if you were to leave, they're going to fill your job. You know, and I think that's one of the big things that we all realized. And I have such good senior staff that all of us like acknowledged it, and our senior staff sat down and they're like, okay, what can we do about this? Because our staff works so hard, and it's hard. And I'm one of those people who has a very hard time taking a day off, like Brian was talking about. It's just not in my nature. I work in social media. I'm used to working from sun up to sundown, or from when I wake up till when I go to sleep, and at least checking on things. And it's just not in my nature to stop working. And our staff said, well, you know, what we have to do is basically force you not to work. So a lot of our staff got furloughed in the fall. And then we have kind of termed a new thing called the reverse furlough in our office, where you are essentially the outcome of a furlough where you can't check your email, you can't respond to things, you can't do any of that, but it's a paid holiday. But you're also not using your own vacation days, which is nice. And they basically said everyone has to take a minimum of 5 of them in the short term. You're not pushing this off till the summer. You're not adding this to your summer vacation. We're having an issue right now and we need to solve this right now. And so they more or less, and you don't have to take it 5 days in a row. It was, you know, if you want to take a Friday off, or if you can't take Fridays off because Fridays are busy with conference play, take a Wednesday off, take a half day on Wednesday and Thursday. Some way to get 40 hours of paid unplugged time in. And for me, like I said, I work in social, it's hard to take a day off. I said, how about I don't start working till noon on days when we have games till 10 p.m. How about I start working at 2 or 3 or something, or I only work the night that day or something. And just trying to come up with solutions, and our staff's been so flexible. And but it all started with us going to our senior staff and saying, we're not okay right now. Like, we have, like I said, we have people whose marriages are suffering, their kids are unhappy. And we went to them and we said, something needs to happen, or we're going to leave. People are going to leave. You're going to lose staff. We're already short staffed as is with just job changes. A lot of us went to our senior staff and they listened, and that's super important. I mean, on top of advocating for yourself, it is incredibly helpful to have a staff that also will listen and be receptive to this. But I do think that in this year and this last couple of years, mental health has become so much more talked about. And I think that's huge. And I think the toll that the last year of the pandemic has taken on people, the toll of the race and social justice issues that are still ongoing, those are things that are heavy on people's heads and their hearts. And it doesn't make it any easier to then just want to go write a recap at midnight or something. I think people are going through a lot right now, and it's not just work. And I think being able to talk to your senior staff, or being able to talk to them about it, hopefully they will understand. I think it's things that a lot of people, even our senior staff, was going through it. They were doing it themselves. And they were saying, yeah, I also need to take off days because I can't do this anymore either. And I think everyone's going through it right now. And I think that people are probably more open to talking about what solutions we can find so they don't lose a good employee.
And Katie, I completely agree with you on that. You know, 2 things. One being, we have to vocalize. You know, if someone's dealing with something, if someone needs a day, you know, I talked with my staff a few weeks back, and I was like, hey, I'm not always going to know there's an issue unless you tell me there's an issue. You know, I've been the head of the office here. It'll be 6 months from the day that we're recording this, and I don't know I've gotten to know my staff, but I don't know them well enough to know, hey, I'm thinking this right now. And I told them, like, hey, be honest with me, talk to me. And if they don't do that, I mean, the people, whether you're an assistant director talking to a director, whether you're a director talking to an AD, you have to vocalize it.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. I know in my situation, I'm at a conference office. So I've been working from home since last March. So some people at schools, obviously you see your senior staff on a daily basis. They would have no idea my mental health, other than us being together at our basketball tournaments for the first time in a year. And so that's where the communication is so important, because they don't know. And we're all so busy. And I hate to say that it's not selfish and it's not self-absorbed, but we're also busy with our own things that right now, a lot of us don't have the time to look around and like take stats of everyone else's health right now. And so being able to go speak to someone, especially if you're still working from home, like a lot of people still are, no one knows. and they just assume if you haven't said anything that you're good. So it's huge to advocate for yourself, not just in every scenario, but especially right now in this.
Going to you, Brian, to follow up on this, just kind of as someone who leads an office and has a substantial staff, how do you convey to them how they need to communicate with you?
Well, in my office, I mean, it's always from day one. I've always said my door is always open. You know, we're one of the schools that we have been back since we've gotten all our sports back. So I basically see my GAs, my admin. You know, we're just back like nothing ever happened. As bad as that is a cliche to say, but you know, I always tell them, listen, the job is here right now, yes, but you know, how are you doing? That's the first question. I don't ask you, hey, why didn't the recap go up, or did you send out stats? The first question that I come in every morning is, how are you doing? Because I feel, you know, if I tell you how I'm doing, you know, I'm not having a great morning. I got a flat tire or something like that. You know, you get a sense of what's going on in my life right now. It's not, you know, hack files and stats and interview requests. It's, you know, something that's going on in my life. So I basically make it my mission every morning to go around the office, you know, socially distance, of course, in Wagner, to just say, how are you doing? And do you need to talk? Do you know, just try to carve out at least 15, 20 minutes. And if they said, no, we're good, you know, I said, are you sure? Because, you know, my door is always open. Yeah, we get in the crux of the day, as Katie and Nate have said, you know, we're busy with our own stuff, but I always try to make sure that the door is cracked open a little bit. You can peek in, say, hey, Brian, you got a minute? You know, I just got to run something off you, and I'll step in the hallway and we can talk, or you can talk in my office. I excuse the GAs, you know, for a little bit, and we'll just talk to see how you're, you know, coping. Because, you know, like I mentioned, you know, May 18th, you know, personally, it's not a day that I like to reminisce on, but having to know that for the first time in my, you know, employment career that I was not going to work, scared, to be frank, it scared the hell out of me. I mean, it was just a daunting task to deal with. But now that I'm back, I've kind of seen it through a different lens that yes, I'm still doing the amount of work that I was doing when I was here 40, 50 hours a week, but it's now on a different surface. It's not, it doesn't feel the same. And I don't expect it to ever feel the same. I feel like we're now in that point where, you know, the work that we do is substantial, but it's also taking on a new meaning because for some, this is their outlet to, you know, relieve themselves of what's going on in their personal life. So I try to tell my staff to just be cognizant of that. You know, you might get a parent that screams and calls you about a stat, or why didn't you guys stream? Just remember that, you know, you got to make means work when you can, but also we're dealing with something on a global level that, you know, nobody's seen in this lifetime. So that's how we approach it right now.
And yet, you know, being the head of an office for the first time and kind of navigating this during COVID, I was talking a week or so ago with a former grad assistant of mine, a former student worker at a couple different places I was. And I said to him, like, I don't think you realize how different I approached this than I thought I would have when I was in this role. And Nate, just kind of to go to you on this, like, this is a very unique year to be leading an office.
Sure is, especially for the first time. And I've kind of, again, just kind of learning things about myself, learning how to help and pick up others, not only in my office, but across the hall, sitting down and having a conversation, like Brian said, or like an AT, and because they're going through the same things that we're going through. Or I have constant conversations with my AD, who's a former SID himself, and he kind of understands what I'm going through. And he's been the biggest cheerleader for me as I'm like kind of guiding me through, you know, leading for the first time. So just a lot of things is just, you know, making sure to make time for yourself, but also make time to talk to people around you and make sure that they're good. And it's okay. I know even though you're feeling down, it's okay to try to pick them up, because you never know what that, you know, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, do you need help with anything? I can help you break down something. I can help you pick something up. You never know what that could do for a person, and that kind of spreads like wildfire. I know we're starting to have a culture here at Alfred where we're just like kind of asking each other, hey, do you need anything? Hey, you okay? and it's kind of spreading, and I'm starting to feel encouraged by that. I think, a lot of it, it's, we're just trying to deal with the pandemic and trying to fight for ourselves here, but it's been great, that aspect of it.
Yeah, you make an interesting point there. We're all dealing with similar challenges, whether it be an athletic trainer or a dobo or a strength and conditioning coach or a facility staff member. I said to my boss this morning, it was, yeah, I had a tough Monday. Everyone had a tough Monday. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just be like, my Monday stunk. Like, everybody's did. So I think when you have that perspective that, everybody's dealing with something, and maybe it's work related, maybe it's personal, just kind of all being there for each other, I think is a great thing. And I think it's something that can help create better cultures in all of our departments nationwide.
Yeah. And to add to that, and not only within your own department, but with your peers and other institutions, I'm in constant conversation with a number of members of, the conference that I'm in, the Empire 8. Just, we talk to each other pretty much on a, whether it's sending files, but within those messages of sending files, like, hey, how you doing? Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're surviving. Little jokes here and there, just to kind of pick each other up. And I think that helps, and just kind of doing whatever you can to help out the other institution, if you can find the time to do so. I think that's been a key, thing for us.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been on, this is probably the 317th Zoom I've been on in the last 12 months and change, but some of those Zooms we've been on, it's things like this where we're able to, help other people in our profession. It's something where we were all stuck at home in the spring and summer, and got to know other people in our profession. We got to really understand, like, we're all facing the same challenges. They just might not be the same ones on every day. But another challenge, that I think some people are dealing with, or, we've talked with the three of you who have been furloughed and wound up back to work, and there are still people who are trying to go back to work. And I think for the people who outright were laid off or lost their jobs, Brian brings up the point of May 18th. And for me, I think about the morning of August 12th, when I had taken a couple of vacation days and I was like, okay, I'm going to just take a couple of days here before football starts, good to go. And was able to piece together a few emails one morning to realize what my 10 a.m. Zoom was about. And it was something, Brian said it about just kind of evaluating, like, why. And, I think talking with the three of you and so many people in our profession, I think we have people throughout our industry that work hard, that are dedicated, that care about our student athletes. And sometimes you just kind of have to look at it like, at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with it's me. Like, I sat there, and throughout that day, and as people were texting and calling, it was, well, what did I do wrong? Why was it me and not someone else? And at the end of the day, a lot of decisions that administrators are making, that ADs and presidents and everyone are making, none of them want to make these decisions. These are things that are going to impact departments for a couple of years, if not longer. And I give a whole lot of credit to my athletic director from my past employer, who reached out, congratulated me on my new job, and obviously unique situation where I'm in the same league. But I sat there, and for that first day or two, it was just a case of, what did I do wrong? And I think at the end of the day, for people who are fighting that same challenge, you likely didn't do anything wrong. It's just, it's a pandemic, it's a financial crisis, it's so many things that have hit our industry. And for people who are still battling that and still trying to find their way through it, really lean on your network and really lean on the people who have helped you to where you are. I am so fortunate. I tell people I'm the luckiest person in our profession last year. I lost my job and wound up with an incredible opportunity. And I know not as many people have been that fortunate. But lean on the people in your network, lean on your friends, get involved in CoSIDA, get involved in social media events and Zooms and things like that, because we had a lot of great people in this profession who really care about the work they do. And I think, dating back to when I was an undergrad student worker, those are the things that really make our profession special. Is we care about each other, and we care about what we do. And as we go into another year, and as we go into another fiscal year, really advocating to our administrators and our university administrators two things. And one is that there is an incredible value for your SIDs in your athletic department. And there's an incredible value for having them in the building 12 months. Because we've seen what I think was a lot of our fear over the summer, which was, okay, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to play football in the fall. We're going to be able to play field hockey and volleyball and soccer in the fall. So are we going to play 20 sports in the spring? No, we probably won't do that. But then we realized, okay, we are going to do that. And I think there's always this case in our industry, and I think we're all around sports so many of us have a sports background, that we always want to find a way to get to that next game. We always want to find a way to get to that next practice. And I think that became the focus to the point where, we got to make sure we're taking care of people. And my hope and my focus in that is that we don't try and ever play 20 sports in a season again, or 32 as some of our league members are playing, or whatever it may be. And if we are going to play that, we need to make sure we're staffing our communications department, our marketing department, our video people. I think one thing I've learned in a decade of doing this is some people just don't know how much goes into a game day or how much goes into a preseason. And going back to what we've talked about a lot, and Brian, I want to bring you in on this, is like explaining to your administrators what goes into our job.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything that you said, Miles. I mean, our seasons don't end, Memorial Day weekend and just magically, resume 2 hours before the first game. There's that June and July period where most people are, going on vacation with their families or taking some time off, like really disconnecting themselves from work. I know, in the conference that we work in, Miles, it seems like it's a year-round thing. Once the last out is made at Dodge Stadium, we're right back into football media day. So you turn around, you're like, where did the time go? But something, you don't ever take that. I'm personally looking at it as not taking that for granted anymore. And just, rolling with the punches has been kind of the mantra that I've set for myself almost every day. Every day seems like since we've been back, there's been updates and on the fly schedules that, you just have to adjust. And it's not, not only just for our staff and how we're going to cover the game, but it's also, a toll on the student athletes, the coaches, the athletic trainers that you mentioned, the facilities people. It's not just one aspect of college athletics that gets impacted. It's everyone here. And like you said, just lean on your network of people and friends. I mean, like I said, Miles, we're fortunate to have known each other for as long as we do, but through this panel, I got to hear stories from Katie and Nate, who outside of this panel, we just met, basically talked for the first time. And, I realized that we're not alone in this. I mean, it's everywhere. It's affecting everybody. But now I'm fortunate enough that I can just now pick up the Zoom call and say, hey, Katie, hey, Nate, how are you doing? Do you need anything from me? I know physically I can't probably do anything right now, but if you need me to help you write a recap story or a graphic, if you're running between 5 sports, reach out. I'm there. Or if it's just to say, hey, are you okay? Do you need time to just vent? I'm here. Listen. So I think that for me, that's what I'm going forward with and moving on with.
I'm here for a good knock-knock joke if you need it as well.
Good knock-knock joke. It's fun, Brian, you talk about how we can all kind of help each other in kind of holding each other accountable and just kind of reminding ourselves why we're doing what we're doing. It's funny. It was just last night, I was speaking with Katie about something and she reminded me, hey, you're not going to solve this tonight. Get some sleep. And sometimes it's something as simple as that, is telling someone it's midnight, shut the laptop, solve what you got to solve tomorrow. And it's just that way that we can all kind of hold each other accountable that I think really helps things. Another thing that I think really helps things too is, a lot of why we do this is for the student athletes, the hundreds of kids on our campus or within our conference that we're really there to impact. And, Nate, just kind of going off that, just kind of that reminder of why we do what we do and how it can help us through a time like this.
I think, and they've been the ones that have been pushing me throughout this semester. Just seeing the great things that they did. We had a tennis player playing her last matches this past weekend, and she ended her career with a win, and just the joy she felt. And I have a student worker with mine that is graduating, and she's had some health issues as well, and she got to play in a basketball game and scored the last bucket of the game. And it was just a tremendous moment. I called it a Willis Reed moment for her. And she didn't understand the reference. She's far too young for that. But yeah, they've been kind of pushing me, and I've been, happy to see, they're taking the opportunities that they've had and they're making the most of it too. It's hard for them as well. They're going through the stresses of being a student athlete in a pandemic. They've had situations where they've been hunkered in their dorms for 2 weeks on quarantine, or, practices have been limited or nothing at all, have been on pauses, starts and stops. I told somebody, like, I don't know if I would be able to be a student, let alone a student athlete, if this was my first year of college. So, I commend them for, making that opportunity and making the most of that opportunity, and, kind of sacrificing a little bit of themselves as well. And, whenever I feel like I need to complain or I'm just like feeling it, like, I just know that they're kind of going through the same thing too. And, their joy is what brings me joy. So I'm trying to learn to kind of, take that into consideration whenever I'm feeling down.
Awesome, Nate. Thank you, Katie. Brian, just want to wrap things up here. Just kind of going through Brian, Katie, and then Nate. Just something from this last year and from the challenges we've faced that can really help us improve in our own roles as SIDs, and also help us improve our departments going into what mercifully, hopefully, will be a much more normal 21-22.
I know for me, the biggest lesson is don't be afraid to speak up. I mean, this year's, that's the one thing that I know, you know, at times I could be very, quiet, to contrary to a lot of my friends and people that know me, but can't be afraid to speak up to your ADs and just vouch for yourself. If you need the time to get away, speak up, say, listen, I'm not well. You can't just like hide it and hope that it gets better. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to play with your emotions. It's not going to be beneficial for anybody. Speak up to your ADs. They understand too. I know sometimes we might lose sight of it, but they're going through the same thing. They have the same fears. They have the same hesitations that you're feeling. And if you just speak up about it, it will probably work itself to a solution.
I'll go next. I think similar to what Brian said, I should have gone first, is speaking up, but I will take it in a different route, which is speaking up to your network and the people around you. I mean, anybody who follows me on Twitter, especially, but general social media, knows I'm not afraid to talk about this kind of stuff or mental health. And I literally was tweeting about it last night. And then once you talk about just kind of like maybe poor mental health or just where you're at mentally, what you're struggling with, I think you'll see how many people are in the same boat as you. And while it's sad in one aspect, so many people are struggling, I mean, there's the age-old saying, misery loves company. And I don't want other people to be miserable, but it is nice to know I'm not alone, or we're not alone, you're not alone, that other people are struggling right now. You're not behind everybody because you're struggling. I know I have major imposter syndrome a lot of the times. And I see other people and they seem like they're doing great. And I'm like, how are you handling all of this? And so I think being able to speak out, but speaking out on just where you're at, and whether that's to Twitter, to your followers on Twitter, like I am, or just to a couple of your friends, and being able to say like, hey, I'm not doing okay. And they might be like, you know what, me either. And you're like, okay, I'm not behind everyone. I'm not doing worse than everyone. I'm not slacking. I'm not any of this stuff. We're all in the same place. And I think finding people who you can talk about that with, like Miles said last night, him and I were kind of bouncing back and forth of him talking about what he was dealing with, and then me talking about what I'm struggling with. And that's been my outlet over the last month when it's been rough for me, is texting friends I have in the industry and being like, I can't take this. And they're like, you know what? No, you can. You're great. You're going to get through it. I already did it and I got through it. And, but I think just finding people you can talk to, and whether that's in the industry or not, whether it's family, friends outside the industry, a spouse, whatever it may be, but just being open about it and looking for a solution within that, and having people who will uplift you.
Yeah, I'm starting to sense a theme here. Again, fighting for yourself, fighting for your, just your place in the world here. I think it's so important. I think too many times, like Brian and Katie said, we're quiet. We kind of just keep to ourselves. We're not like willing to speak not only to our AD, but those down the line in other senior roles. And I think we as a group have to fight for ourselves. Like that's a must. We should be fighting for ourselves and fighting for our jobs every single day. And we have to know our worth. I think it's super important to understand that you are here for a reason. You were chosen because you are good at your jobs. And once you keep that in your heart, it kind of gets you through a lot of the bad times, even when you're making mistakes here and there in the day or things aren't going right here or there. Just know that you are here for a reason and you are worth it. And other things is just kind of, again, finding your why. And if when you're feeling down, just like finding ways to kind of pick yourself up through inspirational stuff from other people or just having that conversation, like Katie said, with a friend. But it's just going back to fighting for yourself. I think that's the most important thing right now.
I'm about to run through a brick wall after that speech, Nate. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Nate, I think you used a great phrase there, and it's finding your why and reminding yourself, we have some incredibly talented people in this profession. We have people who care. We have good people who really love what they do and do it for the right reasons. And reminding yourself that you do have that worth. And as so many of us, including the four of us, have faced some of those challenges over the last year, remembering that we're in these roles for a reason. And we're in these roles because we can make an impact for others. And we love what we do. So I think that's a great note to close on. Nate Smith from Alfred University, Katie Mucci from the Missouri Valley Conference, Brian Morales from Wagner College. Thank you for joining us. I'm Miles McQuiggan from St. Francis University. Thank you for joining us for our professional development and education, continuing education programming. We are glad to bring this to you. Definitely follow CoSIDA on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram as we continue to bring you great things. Get involved. It will help you. It helped all of us in where we are today. So definitely continue to get involved, continue to advocate for yourself, and take care of yourself. Thank you.